All right, so the Metaverse is looking to get some standards. Thank you for joining Metaversity, your first stop for everything on the new frontier of Metaverse and everything blockchain. I'm Chris with Kristen, and we'll explore this new world together. So, in an effort to try to get more interoperability between all these different Metaverse or emerging Metaverse platforms, there's been a new organization formed called the Metaverse Standards Forum. And the goal of it is to create some sort of standard between all these different platforms so they can talk together. And they just basically put out their first press release today and are hoping to have some meetings in the month of July. So right around the corner, with the goal of creating some standards for the metaverse. And I'm kind of looking a little over your shoulder. You probably have a little bit better view of it, of some of the founding members. There's 37 different companies that have started it, and they've invited more to come along. So, and there's no cost for becoming a member. And some of them are exactly who you think. Some may be a little bit of a surprise, but there's Meta's in there, IKEA, Adobe. Some of these companies are companies that work on standards. So like the World Wide Web Consortium and Kronos Group. And then others are from like various entertainment organizations like Sony Entertainment Group and Unity and Epic Games. So there's a huge conglomerate of people that are basically trying to work on this project.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's needed. Just like the web 1.0 and 2.0 needed these same standards. We need them now moving into Web 3. Kind of the interesting thing is this isn't like the first time I've seen a group trying to come together to come up with whatever these standards ought to be. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time I've seen a lot of these bigger names kind of come together.
Right.
I think about like, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, I guess it's been, when AWE's kind of group that puts on that, we were just talking about them in their conference that they put on. Anyway, a lot of the people that are involved in the creation of that conference are also on some kind of group similar to this that's interested in the kind of the standardizations, coming up with what they are. So it's, kind of looking at it, just a lot of big names up there, names I would expect to be interested in coming up with this standardization,
Yeah, absolutely. And a quote from their press release is, the Metaverse Standards Forum provides a venue for cooperation between standards organizations and companies to foster the development of interoperability standards for an open and inclusive metaverse and accelerate their development and deployment throughout pragmatic action-based projects. So there's a lot of big words there. Yeah. But in general, it's the idea that a lot of these groups will be able to talk easily together, and kind of like you don't have to, the internet's just kind of the internet and things work on it. So you don't have to have something special to go to Facebook that's different than going to some other website. It all kind of just works. And so the idea of them coming together to try to figure out like how maybe my NFT that I have on OpenSea will also work on whatever Meta creates. Or one of the slides, which I will have a link to, actually showed where somebody kind of designed like their little race car, and they were able to import their race car eventually into a game that was on one of these metaverse platforms, and it kind of worked with all the physics and everything else that was part of the game. And of course, there's much more to the metaverse in gaming, but it was kind of interesting to see kind of, their way of showing how I could be maybe in Adobe to start the design and eventually end up in maybe a world created by Meta or one of these other companies, Epic Games. Maybe you're in a kind of a Fortnite type world, and you're able to use the item that you created in Adobe inside of that world, but it would also work in other things too.
Right. Well, in the grand scheme of things, what's so exciting about NFTs is not just, having a race car in a game. It's about this idea that I can have a digital thing that's actually useful, regardless of what that digital thing is, whether it's meant, for gaming, or it's meant to be an art piece, or it's meant to be a digital representation of a shoe,
Yep,
it could
any
be
of that stuff.
It could be literally anything. But it gives me that ownership that, with the idea, I guess, that I can actually have that thing with me and able to be used in any of the metaverse that I choose to go into. You know what I mean? Whether that's VR or AR.
Right.
Well, it's there.
It's there. And, just think of how neat it'll be. There's some games and some other applications that have attempted this, but, imagine if, you were able to design your own pair of shoes, virtually, and then you could wear them. You could wear them in a video game. You could wear them.
Well, there's some of that
virtually.
Now.
Some of that.
I just shared an article with you the other day, right? That I think it was it Nike? I think it was Nike.
Yep, Nike's starting to do that.
That they're letting you try on in shoes in AR, which you're kind of like, okay, well, how does that work? Okay, obviously you're not trying them on for fit, but from a visual standpoint, I could put them on and then I can see what I look like with them.
Right. See if it matches your outfit or
or if
whatever.
You like the look or whatever. Because, mirrors exist in shoe stores. So, you care what you look like when you have them on your feet.
Right. But now you'd be able to do it from your home. And, there's lots of products that kind of do some of that.
Kind of the other thing, too, is it can help you. You see some of this with like IKEA's app and how they use AR. You see it with measuring apps and that kind of thing. So you actually can use the AR measuring tools, and you could probably get a pretty accurate measurement of your foot.
Right.
And, a map of your foot, just like you could map the world. And then you could give them that and get a shoe that fits your foot specifically.
Right. Now, I don't know if I've ever paid attention, but with the IKEA app, I know you can kind of map out your room kind of virtually and then drop furniture in it. But can you do it the opposite way? So when you're doing the room, you're kind of measuring your room, and then it kind of makes a fake version of your room or model of your room and drops furniture in it. But can you actually like look at your room and then drop virtual furniture in it yet?
I'm not sure. I haven't played a huge amount with that. I've done it from hey, I have this couch and I can take that AR version of the couch and drop it in the room and actually see, how that couch looks over there.
Right.
Or I can move it over here or whatever. IKEA does that, and there's a couple others I think that do similar things, but now they're not. My brain's not working, and so I can't think of who they are. I just know that IKEA does that.
Sure.
Oh, I know Amazon does that too.
Right. Well, Amazon has a thing where you can like kind of through AR kind of look at clothing and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I was just shopping the other day for like tables for kind of the entryway, and like a lot of the listings, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of listings actually said, hey, do you want to see what this looks like in your house? And I was kind of like, no, I'm good, but it's cool. Cause I know, the measurements, I know how it's going to look.
Right.
So I'm artsy. I can kind of envision that without having to see it, but it's neat that it's a thing, and it's neat that you're seeing that included in things like Amazon and whatever,
Well, and I think kind of the other big thing here that's important, we're kind of talking about some of the uses that you might be better because everything works together. But some of the big names you mentioned, you wouldn't necessarily think that maybe Meta and Microsoft wouldn't normally be buddy-buddy on stuff. But in this type of group, the fact that they are both working together to help come up with a standard anyway, is pretty exciting. And you might even be able to say that for like Meta, Microsoft, maybe even Adobe. They're not necessarily all direct competitors. Meta's obviously social, and Adobe does Photoshop and all that stuff, but you could easily see where Adobe might allow you to create an item and that might live on Facebook or go on Microsoft somewhere. So you can kind of see where that interoperability would come in handy, even though those companies aren't typically
well, the
super friendly.
interoperability is important too, to like, okay, so I made a 3D object of a puppy. And
Right.
now I want to animate the puppy and I want to program the puppy to be a virtual puppy for me. I'm going to have to move that asset through different programs in order to, give it a skeletal structure and make sure that I can move it. And, then I can code in behaviors and things like that. And then take that final thing and then load it into my everyday life somehow.
Right.
And those standards are important for making sure that it works, that
Right.
process works, and that the final result of the puppy that, is going to behave like a little AR,
virtual AR puppy.
Yeah. AR or virtual, sure, but that's kind of the thing. Like these standards, it's kind of a boring thing, everybody's like, boo, it's, you're just having meetings about whether or not we can all use OBJ files or whatever, and it's like, I know that feels silly and boring, but it's like, it's super important to the core of what they're building.
Right.
What this future is that we're all, headed towards.
Well, it's important enough that kind of right next to founding members, McKinsey and Company, they're a kind of a consulting group, and they basically put out a study or a report, I should say, about the value of the metaverse in the coming years. And basically they said in their report, if they can figure out the interoperability issues in the metaverse, that the metaverse could be worth, $5 trillion by 2030.
So I see these reports all the time, and they're done for every industry you can possibly think of. And I always wonder, because I've never really dove very deep into these. Like, where are these numbers coming from? Like, how are they coming up with these projections? Because to be honest with you, like, I would love to know what the value is of Web 2 versus Web 3. They're
Right.
saying metaverse, but this is, show me some kind of, number that gives me some perspective, because I feel like 5 trillion is not enough.
Yeah.
Given where we're headed and what we know it's going to be.
I think that, two things to that. I think if you have I think with the metaverse, I totally agree with you, because when you're talking about established industries that are coming into their own, that are based off of other things, I think sometimes you can kind of, make a reach and start coming up with numbers. But I feel like the metaverse is so, the true metaverse anyway, not what Facebook is doing or what Snap's doing currently, but what it'll be in, maybe 2030, definitely has probably a huge value to it, but there's nothing else around to kind of help you get to those numbers, at least not that I know of. If we have somebody listening who understands this way better, we'll probably would love to have you on here to help educate us.
Yeah, because at this point, it just doesn't, it feels almost like, I don't know, like, where are these numbers coming from? I feel like they're just pulled out of thin air.
Well, but on the flip side, $5 trillion is pretty big. That's almost worth the third largest economy in the world, which is Japan. So, that's still pretty big. But the thing is, the metaverse will be like global. It won't be like a single country. So on the same token, kind of like what you were saying, I don't know that it's big enough. It could be bigger. Could be smaller. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. It's hard when you think about, okay, well, what is this future going to look like, and how different is our world going to be in, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years or more.
Right.
And it's like when you're thinking about that and, you have visions of popular movies like dancing in your head, like The Oasis, and you're like, from Ready Player One, you're like, okay, well, if the future is going to be like that, but it's like mixed with, that was all VR. If it's going to be some weird mix of that and AR, so it's like mixed with your real world because, we're not living in a dystopian, real world like they are in that movie. So like, how cool is that going to be? Well, that's going to be massive. Mm-hmm. And, just the sheer number of people that were involved in playing in that world. Right. Of course you would see that also here in the real world. Mm-hmm. It feels, I don't know. It just feels like 5 trillion is just small.
Seems kind of small.
Yeah,
well,
for what it will likely be, like what vision of that I see in my head.
Yeah, and they had a little bit of a breakdown, which I think most of it makes pretty good sense to me. 2 to 2.6 trillion of that will be e-commerce, and I think that makes sense because everybody loves to shop, everybody wants to buy stuff. So whether you're talking about VR or AR, I think we'll be seeing people buying a lot of stuff.
Does advertising count as e-commerce, or is it like literally the buying of goods?
They actually broke advertising out, so it's just the buying of goods. Advertising was going to be somewhere around 200 billion of that 5 trillion would be advertising.
So there's another area, and I'm like, no way. That number's not right.
I feel like advertising will go way up inside the metaverse because everything will be an ad.
Yeah. And, the way we think back to the Web 1.0 days, right? What was advertising? It was banners everywhere. You had banners at the top of your screen, and you had, sidebars and like pop-up ads. And of course, we still have some of that in Web 2.
Right.
But advertising sort of morphed, and it became native ads that you see within your streams on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you saw those. Web 3 is going to be very different. I mean, an easy one to envision, right, would be like I'm walking down the street and I see somebody wearing a cool shirt, and I'm like, hey, that's a cool shirt. And, my AR goggles or whatever realize that I'm looking at that shirt, and it goes, bing.
Right.
This shirt was found here and it costs this much. Would you like to order it now? And you're like, yeah, I'll order that. And, you get it. That's an easy one to envision, that future. That's handy and it doesn't feel intrusive.
Right.
Well,
and I mean, we've kind of got a picture not quite as elaborate of that, but there's actually two of them. You've got maybe your shopping assistant that's helping you walk through the Walmart or the grocery store or whatever that is.
Yeah. The one that you have on the left, though, like that's somebody hasn't. There's so many things running through my head with this image.
Well, the funny thing is,
the first is that I'm experiencing it with an iPad as my portal to the digital world, and we all know that's not where we're headed, so it just kind of irks me a little bit.
No, but you might could find that sooner than later. But it's also, for what it's worth, it's really hard to find
stock art,
accurate images of anything in here.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, the really cool VR picture there was actually attached to an AR article. It's hard to find stuff.
It is, until these things exist, I think, we have to really kind of broaden our minds and think beyond what we have current visual aids to show us. Like you have to kind of imagine, and that's not easy for everyone. So I totally get it. However, that's that image on the left where it's like somebody holding up an iPad or something, and they see like discount codes. Hey, get this discount on this thing. And it's like pointing to something in the shop. Maybe it will be like that, but that feels like, it just feels horrible to me. That's not the direction I feel like we should be headed. I don't want to encourage that, if that makes sense.
No.
Like I think we can do better than that, guys. Come on.
Well, and we know that's kind of a fail anyway, because nobody's going to carry their iPad around shopping.
Well, for sure not that. But I mean, let's say it wasn't the iPad, and let's say that it was, in my AR glasses. Like if I'm seeing crap like that, I just feel like our AR world has failed.
No, it'll be our AR glasses, and they'll look like Ray-Bans or something.
No, but I'm not even saying that. Like I'm saying, like if our advertising looks like that, guys, like really, even version 1.0 of whatever advertising we're doing in this new AR world, that is sad, and we should all be fired.
So it's not the interface, it's the actual
ad. Like it's so unimaginative.
Yeah.
And like we can do better than that. Like the world is your canvas right now. Like you could do anything. And what we see in the second image is this like little character girl, whatever, in, I don't know, is that a Walmart?
Oh, I
think it looks kind of like a Walmart. It looks like a Walmart to me. So, you have your
definitely not a Target.
I don't know. The cart looks really nice. So it's not a Target, but you know, it's a little nice for a Walmart because the carts aren't like that, but whatever. So it has like your little character, and she's like walking you through the store and probably talking to you and telling you all of the great things that, you know, she knows about you because, you know, big data is a thing, and like people know, you know, they know how to advertise to you on Facebook. They know things about you, and that same kind of information will exist most likely in this new Web3 world, and it will be used in ways that are more creative than a 40% off tag, like floating in your vision pointed at something on a shelf. Like it'll be this girl and or some other character, and she'll be like talking to you like your friends,
right?
You know, and she will tell you things that matter to you. She will advertise things that matter to you. Like, yeah, you know, you were talking with your husband I mean, maybe this is a little creepy, but you were talking with your husband the other day. We heard you. And hey, there's this thing over here. Don't forget, you said you wanted to get that thing. It's right here. And I have a coupon for you if you want to go ahead and get it today, and I'll apply it on immediately on checkout or something like that. Like it could be, I don't know, maybe that's horrible. Maybe nobody really wants that. I don't know. But
I don't know. I think the little shopping person, you know, or, you know, an example when we were kind of getting ready for the podcast, you were talking about the people that twirl the signs. Yeah. You know, that could be an AR item.
Yeah. I mean, instead of some, like, there's a puppy place up the road from us.
And the scary puppy.
They have a
scarecrow.
Yeah, it's like a puppy scarecrow because they used to put a guy in the costume. Well, I assume guy. I don't know. They put a person in the costume, and it's hot. It's Florida in the middle of summer, and that poor person has got to be just like dying in that costume. They're so hot, and they're out there just holding the sign, shaking it around like, "Come get your puppies." And
come get your puppies.
Yeah. Well, look, I have so many things I could continue to say on this topic, but I'm gonna try and stay focused on the fact that, you know, in the end, in this Web3 world, like you don't have to have a physical guy out there like sweating to death. You know, having to pay them. Like you could actually just have like a little puppy guy, and he waits until people's proximity is close enough, and then he engages with them, and you know. Right. Or maybe it's not a guy in a costume at all kind of animation. Maybe it's just a little puppy. And the little puppy runs up to you and licks you or whatever. Like, who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
But there's so many things that could be done there that's so different than what we're used to in advertising.
I feel like when I think about this stuff, I'm like, oh man, I could go on forever on all these different ideas of things that we could do. But the whole point in that very long tangent rant, whatever, before I hop down from my soapbox is 40% off tag in my AR glasses. If this is what I see, I'm coming for you.
Oh yeah, is that bad?
For real, I'm coming for you.
All right.
Like we can do better than that.
You're on notice, all you future AR advertising agencies.
Yeah, do better. That's all I'm saying.
Do better than the 40% off tag. So we kind of jumped right into it, but you know, that was kind of our third topic, was kind of talking about how there is a bit of a shift. Some of these companies are taking more interest in the AR side of things because there's no boundaries. You know, it's limitless as far as what they can do and where they can go with it.
They have to find where they fit in this future. And that's going to mean that they've got to try some things out. And that's why you've seen people trying to find where they fit in, you know, VR too. Like, you know, okay, well, we have a huge audience segment that plays Fortnite, and we know that we can, like, that's we've been invited in, or we've been in, let me enunciate that. We've been invited in as a company, and we have advertising that we want to do. So we're going to run it like this. And, you know, we have these gear, whatever, skins, and people can, you know, earn them from us or buy them from us or whatever it is. And hopefully that gets brand recognition. And now all of a sudden in the real world, people are, you know, actually saying, hey, you know, I had that. I want that. I'm going to go buy that for real. Right. You know, those shoes or whatever. And I'm going to put them on my feet for real. And so then I match my character, which is cool.
Right.
You know, and so you see some of that already happening, but that's kind of VR. So they're just trying to figure out like where they fit. Well, and they have to be understanding like this is a combination that we're headed towards.
Well, one of my favorite quotes that I've seen so far is basically AR becomes the real world, only metaverse enhanced. So
yes, your world enhanced with digital.
With your world enhanced with digital.
Yeah.
And so, that little puppy guy or the little puppy you mentioned, or, you could see what you would look like in your favorite shirt, or have your AR glasses tell you what that shirt actually is and where to go buy it.
Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about AR glasses, but they're really kind of that viewport for how we interact with the digital content mixed with our real world. That's the key.
Right.
Like, that's what we're all waiting for. That's why we talk so much about it, is because without that, you're left with your phone. Now, that's cool.
Your iPad.
Or your iPad. Sure.
On that picture.
But, we've experienced that. I've played with a lot of different apps that allow for you to, to have that kind of experience where you're mixing your real world with your digital, and your phone or whatever becomes your kind of portal to that world.
Right.
I've even played with some that sort of fool you into thinking that you have walked through like a doorway. So like a doorway will open up, and then you hold your phone out, and as you walk through it, you can see yourself walking through the door. The door is kind of pegged to a location in the room. It used your camera, and it kind of decided this is where it's going to be. And it does a pretty good job of holding still while you walk through it. Right. And then when you walk through the door, you look back and you see, like, it's kind of weird. It would be just like if you were in the VR world that you walked into. Mm-hmm. And so the whole world becomes kind of like this. But like this room that we're in doing our podcast, this like VR space, and then your door, as you can move further away from it, you see your door to the real world. Right. And it shows just a little glimpse of the room, how it looks from wherever it is. It's kind of neat. Yep. But that's the experience you're stuck with when you have a phone or even an iPad. And that's how you're experiencing kind of that digital stuff, or like you see it when you're trying to place a couch from IKEA in your living room and see how it looks. It's really limiting. It's just, it's going to be a lot better when we can actually just have our AR glasses and have this experience kind of just brought. It's in our vision. Right. Contacts too. I welcome it. Let's do it. Contacts are good. Implants are fine. Like, I'm not picky. I just need to get it up and into my eyeballs. You're going to get the implants. You go in and, they come in with a big, weird syringe, and they're just going to. Yeah. I don't know if that translates on the thing. But anyway. I don't know. If you moved your hands, your guy didn't do it either. So I don't know. But, I welcome that future. I'm all in. Let's do it. Count me in. I'll be, a beta tester or whatever. Get your I would try the contact lenses. Says the guy who can't wear contacts. I supposedly I can. Oh, well, I don't know. We'll see. But I can't touch my eyeballs. So I don't know. I think if anybody's ready to do it, I'm ready to do it. Like let's dive in on this and test it out and see how it works. Because like I'm ready to augment my life. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm gonna put that on a shirt. I'm ready to augment it. Let's augment our lives. Augmented life instead of, Yes. Instead of salt life. There's augmented life. So many of those, like mom life and whatever. Anyway. Augment my life. We'll just turn it into a. Was that it for our topics today? I think that's it. All right. Well, on that note, subscribe. Hit the follow button. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about all of this. Hopefully, we're touching on all the right topics for you. If there's anything you'd like to hear on one of these episodes, let us know. Yep, we'll catch you on the next one.